Kia ora, New Zealand, and good morning the world, and good evening to those from the United Kingdom who are with our guest speaker today. Today we're going to look at the topic of smart tourism in a new era of tourism. Why is this topic important? Well, if we've looked at previous webinars, we've talked about how some technology trends will accelerate, and some technology trends will change the booking system, will be used as a labour substitute. But what do these technologies, and in particular smart tourism, mean in this new era of tourism? So today we have a prominent speaker who's going to focus on smart tourism, new technologies, what they mean within a city context, what they mean within a business context, but basically what do they mean in a post-COVID world, post-COVID-19 world. And the key theme is reunite, refocus, redesign, and re-engineer. Our keynote today is a prominent professor. Professor Dimitrios Buhalis is the world's leading expert in tourism technology. That's without doubt. Dimitrios is a professor at Bournemouth University, director of the E-Lab at that university. He's editor-in-chief of the world's oldest tourism journal, Tourism Review, and he's a prominent speaker, writes prolifically, high profile within the media, and it's a pleasure today to welcome Dimitrios to New Zealand. Dimitrios?
Hi Ian, fantastic to be with you. I would have wished to have a physical presence so we can enjoy a nice drink and have some fun together. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to talk to you. It's really difficult times, and a lot of people around the world, I find it really, really difficult to operate in this kind of environment where tourism have actually paused for a minute. And there's a lot of uncertainty. Several countries, including New Zealand, has done very, very well as far as COVID is concerned. But then they are paying that with the economic consequences of their main markets. I understand that in New Zealand, one of the main markets is the UK. And a lot of people are suffering. Now, before I say anything else, it's not only tourism that's suffering. A lot of people are telling me, look, you're in a really bad industry and everybody in tourism is suffering. I'm afraid everybody's suffering. Car manufacturing is suffering. The oil industry is suffering. Everybody's suffering from COVID. And I think we really need to start looking into how we can go the next day and how we can be very clever and smart and use real-time big data to actually take advantage of the resources we have and operate in a clever way in the COVID and the post-COVID era. For the time being, we're still in the middle of the pandemic. So we are still suffering from it and we're still on the emergency state. Gradually, we're going out of it, but it's gonna take some time. So COVID is a crisis unlike any other. And the reason for that is because we don't know how we're going to get out of it. Normally, the crises that we've dealt with in tourism, we dealt with them in a few days, a week maximum, and we were out of it. You remember September 11? It took about a week for flights to restart, and gradually people were getting back to traveling again. And you remember a lot of other crises that we had, tsunamis, all kind of catastrophes and disasters, that actually they happened within a very short period of time, and then we went back to recovery mode. Here we're still in a very prolonged crisis situation where we don't know how long it's going to take. We may have second waves. And that is really the cause of this unprecedented disaster that we are facing. This is Bournemouth last Easter, and this is Bournemouth this Easter. You can see the difference. So people disappeared, people stayed at home, people protected. And this is Bournemouth Airport, believe it or not, with all the aircraft from British Airways that have been parked in the airport. because there's not enough space in Heathrow and other airports. Rough seas make great captains. This is a crisis unlike any other, and we need to see the skills and how we can navigate out of this situation. But what we say in resilience is that we're not gonna return back to where we used to be, but we'll depart to a new future. And those people who understand this new future will be in a much better position to navigate the right place. We really need to look forward because the past becomes irrelevant. And a lot of people in tourism and other industries, they're looking into the mirror to navigate in the future. And that's a very dangerous driving technique. You really need to look forward, and you need to be very smart in taking all the information that you've got from wherever it's coming and make sure that it's relevant to where you are going, not where you have been. The only certainty is uncertainty. And the crisis is absolutely certain, and we know that's going to happen. What we don't know is the response, how the response is going to take place. If you fail to prepare, prepare to fail. And we've seen a lot of countries that they have actually prepared to fail. Now, the good news is that we're alive. Almost 500,000 people have died from COVID. Almost 9 million people have been infected by COVID. And a lot of people have suffered real consequences, and they'll be suffering for the rest of their life. Hopefully, all of us have not had any major impact from COVID, and they've been healthy and safe. We can reignite tourism because we are so blessed with wonderful assets, and this kind of crisis does not destroy the assets, does not destroy the product, does not destroy the brand, it does not destroy the effort to recreate and co-create experiences, and it still enables us to keep going with the resources we've got. Most of the crises that we have in tourism, they destroy our infrastructure or superstructure. A lot of hotels, a lot of airports have been destroyed by disasters in the past. COVID is not one of those. So in that sense, we are lucky because we can actually go to the next stage. And this is Bournemouth today, actually. You remember a couple of months ago, nobody on the beach today. I went by the beach and I saw all these people, and I went straight away and straight back because I'm really, really concerned what they're doing. And I think they're not keeping the 2 meters that the government is advising, and I see a lot of problems with that. But you can see as soon as the government says you can go out, or even before, immediately people take advantage and they go back to the tourism industry because the products and the infrastructure is still there. This is a very comprehensive strategic response that I've been developing, and I don't have the time to explain all of it, but it's basically calling for human resources, money strategies, operation process, products and propositions, distribution and pricing, strategy and competitiveness, and destination strategies to coordinate according to the requirements of each particular organization and each particular destination, because all organizations are very different to each other and each destination is very different to each other. So there's not one magic recipe for everybody, but you really need to have a framework where you need to look into how you can look after your money, how you can look after your people, how you can look after your distribution, how you can look after your customers, and really important, how can you look after your staff. I think one of the things that we've seen in COVID was the level of solidarity that we've experienced, which has never happened before, and the level that the different kind of sectors of the ecosystem have been pushed together to operate together. And the other thing that we've seen in the COVID situation is how important digital is and how electronic tools are becoming the core infrastructure to actually manage the whole situation. And a lot of countries have experienced digitization on steroids in the last three months. They've just moved so fast that they've never managed to move for years and years and years. when you reignite, there are some people that they're going out and they're talking about COVID safe, and there's no COVID safe place in the world, but there must be some places that they're COVID ready in terms of their smart, in terms of their technology, in terms of their protocols, process, ecosystems, and agility. And where technology is coming into consideration, a lot of people would like to know information in advance, and a lot of people like to be reassured about the safety of destinations by providing real-time and context-based information. Location is critical. So before people start traveling to a place, they really need to know what's happening in the location at that particular moment. Clientele, space, architecture, service, personnel, process, and business models, they're all part of the real-time information that we need to have and engagement that we need to have in order to co-create tourism in the new environment. Because each of those things determine how we can open safely and how we can make sure that we restructure the business in a way that can be supported in the future. Ian already talked about the new normal, and I say it's really about reignite, and reignite is enabling people to restart the industry and start taking business and help with their cash flow, then start refocusing on what we do. Longer term, we start redesigning what we do, what kind of products we've got, what kind of experience we co-create. And eventually, longer term, we really need the re-engineering of everything we're doing. And the re-engineering can be on the process, but also it can be on the innovations and the products and the experience and everything that we do. But re-engineering enables us to have a good look into what we do and start again from white paper and redesign everything we do in order to make sure that we add value to all the stakeholders that we've got in the marketplace. And there are so many different stakeholders out there that they all expect tourism to actually provide services and products that satisfies and creates value and satisfies all their needs. And that's quite complicated. This is where smartness and agility is coming forward, because technology enables us to understand better what is happening in our context. By connecting everybody together and enabling the transformation of big data in real time, we're able to create a real-time knowledge about what is happening. A lot of people are talking about smartness, and they talk about smartness like technology. Actually, it's not. It's really about network optimization. It's really about taking advantage of the interconnectivity and interoperability of integrated technologies to re-engineer process and data in order to produce innovative services, products, and procedures to maximize value for all stakeholders. The re-engineering enables shaping and reshaping products, actions, processes, services in real time by engaging different stakeholders simultaneously to optimize the collective performance and competitiveness. Collective is really critical here because it's not about one organization, but it's about all organizations operating together, and to create agile solutions and value for everybody who is involved in the ecosystem. This is really critical to develop interoperability and interconnectivity for mutually beneficial systems. And I think this is the first time that we look systems that they bring everybody together and engage in real time with all the stakeholders in order to maximize the value for everybody, not for one stakeholder or another one. And that's the beauty of what we're trying to achieve with smartness. Smartness takes advantage of networks in terms of interoperability, interconnectivity. It takes advantage of the Internet of Things and the Internet of Everything. Sensors that they collect information and beacons that they project information. Big data and data analytics that they're constantly analyzing all the data that's coming through. Social media that they're looking to user-generated content and Web 2. And technological enablers and opportunities to co-create experience through competition and co-opetition, collaboration, competition at the same time. in order to do that, we really need to understand the internal and the external factors. The internal factors are really about likes, goals, preferences, tasks, emotional status, abilities, disabilities, approaches, topics of interest, and personal events. So it's really about you in this particular moment. Now, when Ian goes traveling with his camera, he is a different traveler than when he's going to a conference or when he's going with his family. So we really need to understand what is the person, what does the person likes and dislikes, what's the preference, what the goals that person is trying to achieve. And also we need to understand the external factors. What's the season, what's the political situation, what's the location, what's the emergency, strikes, weather, light, traffic, air pressure, delays, all of those things. Nobody, of course, has had imagined pandemics because we've never gone through that. But this is the external factors that they control the environment, how we operate. So once you bring everything into the tourism market space, you've got internal context, external context, and you've got on the one side, you've got the travelers, that they've got needs and wants and they would like to satisfy them. On the other side, you've got the tourism industry and the ecosystem that is trying to satisfy those things. And in the middle, you've got distributors, you've got social media, and you've got connected devices that basically doing the bridging between the two. And I think it's critical to understand how we can do that in a way that is smart. Smart does not mean technology necessarily. It means technology, of course, with all the tools that we've got, but also people and leadership. And if you really ask me, what's the most important thing about smartness? I'll say leadership. Because you can do a lot of things with little technology, provided you understand what you're trying to do. If you have technology, you don't necessarily do the right thing. But if you have leadership, you do the right thing and you develop the technology. Then you bring together economic actors, social actors, and technological actors to create the ecosystem that develops value for all the stakeholders. And as a result of that, you bring all kinds of innovations in terms of smart mobility, governance, economy, smart people, smart living, smart environments. And then based on that, you're creating smart tourism destinations with the 6 A's of destination. And you can see a lot of those things. I'm giving you a lot of reference for publications because I cannot really explain everything, 10,000 words for each of these papers. But the idea is that it really enables us to bring together the most critical factors so you can explore that in the destinations. Ultimately, you've got the smart tourism framework, where on the one side, you've got the tourism suppliers, that they're generating big data constantly. That goes up to the cloud in terms of technology. And then we're working with value aggregators to create a storm of value that comes down to consumers, which then create extra feedback into the process. And then the system goes around. The beauty of that is that this can happen very, very quickly. Because if you really think about that, in tourism, we've always been doing this. But what is new is the speed that we operate in the framework. And you can put something in the marketplace, and you can look into what is the situation in the marketplace, and then create propositions, value propositions, and then the consumers may like them or not like them. And then that feedback, if it's successful, you bring more of that. If it's not, you take that out and you bring something else. In the COVID context, what's happening here is that we really need to understand which suppliers will be available and safe for consumers to go. And also, we really need to understand in real time how the situation is changing. If we have, after a few days in Bournemouth, and I hope this is not the case, a second epidemic, a second wave of the epidemic coming in, then we need to know where that is happening, why it's happening, and then move people to different destinations if they've got bookings. So it's all about coordinating the whole system, the whole ecosystem together with technology, understanding what is the real context in real time, and taking and supporting decision making on the go. And that's really very interesting. So when you're looking to nowness, you really look into real-time information that's location-based, mentions, hashtags, sentiments, trending topics, keywords, competitors, all kinds of things. And by looking at all of those things in real time, you're creating a virtual picture of what is happening at the destination and what's the best course of action for each stakeholder of the destination. This brings together businesses, governments, consumers, employees, interest groups, local residents, even robots and machines eventually. They'll be talking to each other to understand what's happening. Imagine that you're driving a car and the car is going through a flooded area and it says immediately to the car that's coming behind, look, I'm going through this patch of water here. Please slow down because it's quite dangerous to drive in that kind of speed. So you can see how the whole system operates together by using all this information in real time. Ultimately,
Dimitrios,
you've got
Dimitrios, could I make just one insertion? Could I ask attendees if they've got any questions, please use the question and answer function. Please use the question and answer function, and we can answer questions at the end. Sorry to interrupt.
All right. So eventually what you've got is you've got a whole range of new enabling technologies that they're coming out, that they're propelling innovations in the marketplace. And then what's happening is that you've got on the supply side on the one side, the customer side on the other side, and then you've got various technologies like virtual reality, augmented reality, location-based services, autonomous devices, that they all help maximizing the value for all the stakeholders in the marketplace. So technology gives us the opportunity to achieve things, to achieve innovations, and innovations are bringing the value in the marketplace. And when we're talking about nowness, you normally have some kind of trigger, real-time trigger, something's happening that actually generates an event. It may be some user-generated content, maybe keywords, maybe something. So in my case today, I took some pictures and I put them on my social media and I said, look, this is what's happening in Bournemouth today. There's no social distancing against the government advice, and I find that really dangerous. A destination management organization should have picked that up and should have rushed to the place, either with police or whatever tools they've got, whatever structures they've got, to actually advise people that what they are doing was unwise and they're going to put themselves and others in danger. Immediately, co-creation is coming into place through nowness is coming into place through co-creation, data-driven, consumer centricity, because we understand what the consumer wants, where the consumer need them in real time, and we enhance the experience. Technology eventually will enable us to enhance the experience and create more value in real time for everybody that's on the ecosystem, not only for the customers, but also value for the brands and value for potential customers, and also for the local population, the residents, and everybody else who's involved. I'll conclude with a few words on ambient intelligence. And ambient intelligence is the next bit of that, which really introduces smart systems to everyday life and everyday environment to propel interconnectivity and interoperability through vehicles and devices through the Internet of everything. Ambient intelligence means that everything's connected and everything is monitored and it's optimized. So you've got technical developments, including artificial intelligence and machine learning, ambient connectivity through wide area and 5G, and autonomous vehicles and robots coming together to create smart solutions and smart value that is then being pushed in the industry through interconnected environments and marketplaces. I think this is revolutionary because it's based on artificial intelligence, it's based on machines understanding what different stakeholders need and take appropriate action to actually get those machines, get this value by by maximizing optimizing rather the resources that we have at the destination. And you can see more on this paper where we're describing it all. So it brings together the Internet of Things, the Internet of Everything, 5G, and then eventually 6G, and so on. RFID, mobile devices, applications, cryptocurrency, sensors and beacons, pervasive computer gamification, and artificial intelligence and machine learning. It brings everything together towards co-creating experiences. And ultimately, it enables us to showcase value, protect people in the COVID era, but also enable pleasurable experiences and add value into that. I think the future is smart and the future is bright. And those people who understand the tools that we've got coming forward, they'll take good advantage, and also they'll take good care of their resources and the value that they co-create. I've covered a lot of material very fast, and these are the references on the research that we've been doing on these things. And I very much hope that you'll have the opportunity to have a look on those things. Thank you very much. Ian, we cannot hear you. Your microphone is muted.
Thank you, Dimitrios, for a well-informed, in-depth, smart, and also very practical presentation of what destinations can do from a technology perspective to be smart. Thank you very much. What I'd like to do now is to take some questions. So just to remind panelists and participants, if you've got a question, just put it into the question and answer slot, and we'll do that. One question that's come up is, Dimitrios, to you, what's the best example of a destination that's actually got it right?
A lot of people are asking me that, but I don't think that any destination have actually gone all the way. Quite typically, Asian countries are very good in smart because they're collecting a lot of data and they've got a lot of big data analysis. So China is collecting awful lot of data and is really very good at data mining. Korea, I've seen examples where they've got 30,000 cameras in Seoul and they're constantly looking at everything, they are monitoring everything back into the system. I don't think that anybody has actually developed such a sophisticated kind of coordinated system other than security services and defense services. In tourism, I don't think we've seen anything like that. But if you see NCIS and if you see some of those guys where you can see how they've got access to all the information, all the data in real time, they're collecting and they make decisions very quickly. This is a level of interoperability and interconnectivity of different systems and data that we will see. And I don't think that anybody has actually done it in tourism or any destination. A lot of the destinations have done different good things in tourism and technology, but I cannot really single out one that has done everything perfectly.
Sorry, I've got a question. I've got a question here, and the question is, Dimitrios, could you just read the question? I'll just read the question back. Sorry, I'll do a top level question. Top level question. Our Minister of Tourism is Kelvin Davis. If you were to have a one-to-one with him, what would your advice be?
You know, Ian, I'm an academic and I'm a strategist. Like, I'm not gonna go on off my, you know, and advise politicians. I've done that in many occasions at my peril. But I think the most important thing is and in each destination, you really need to start from a strategy, because you don't start from technology. You start from what you would like to achieve. So if I meet your minister, I'll say, look, are you taking advantage of all the tools that are available to you? And is your industry working together in coordination, and have they got the infrastructure to be able to co-create value for everybody, maximize the positive impacts for the destination, minimize the negative impacts, make sure that their practices are sustainable, make sure that their practices they've got they're still competitive and they are still active. So if I was to meet your minister, I'll ask a lot of questions before I educate myself, and then perhaps work with colleagues locally to create a strategy for that. That would be lovely.
I've got a question here from one of the participants. If the tourist or destination leader has access to better information and informed information, do they really care? Does it change their behavior? Does it change their decisions?
Yes, absolutely. Because the information actually leads them to do things. And in the past, tourism was really about following the yellow umbrella. But I don't think that a lot of people are very keen to follow the yellow umbrella anymore, to have the vanilla flavor tour guide that says everything. Can I say something personal about you, Ian?
Yep.
Which I normally say to a lot of the presentations I do around the world without your knowledge probably. I keep saying that, you know, on tours that we've done, on trips that we've done together in China and several other places, you quite often employ a tour guide, but who is a photographer tour guide. Because this particular person will give you much more value for what you would like to get out of this particular destination. And you pay this tour guide probably 6 to 10 times more than a normal tour guide, who will actually take you through the same old attractions. So personalization, contextualization, individualization, which is based on big data and understanding what the customer needs in depth, will bring us to the new situation where we co-create value for everybody. So Ian gets to get the best pictures, and he's got very good value by looking into doing his hobby. The local photographer guide is getting 10 times more than he would have got from a normal group. The local population and the local residents get more benefits because Ian is going out of the beaten track and he's buying a Coke or he's buying a sandwich or whatever. And then when Ian shows his pictures to the rest of the world, a lot of other people would like to say, wow, this is wonderful, I like to go there. And I can say a lot of examples from different people who've got different interests. Because the yellow umbrella kind of tour I'm following the leader is kind of not fit for purpose anymore.
Got a question here. If you're a DMO and you're looking to reimagine, where do you start? What should the main focus be?
This is interesting because I get this question quite a lot, and I was doing a presentation some years back in a destination where the local mayor came along and said, I'm really enthusiastic about that. Can I buy it tomorrow? Where do I buy it? How long does it take to install it? And how does it work? And I had to explain to him that I'm not selling a system. It's not a system that is doing that. It's a different way of thinking. It's a strategy. It's bringing a lot of systems together and actually bring the strategic thinking of people to come together and integrate a lot of their existing data, a lot of their existing systems towards maximizing the value for the stakeholders. So where do you start? I would start from your strategic objectives. What are you trying to achieve? If you are trying to, what is your strategy? What are you trying to achieve? In most of the destinations I go, I try to make sure that they do not maximize the number of travelers who are there attracting, but they maximize the positive impact from the travelers that they attract. So depending where you are, what your constraints, what your resources, what you're doing, you know, what's your flows, what's your seasonality, all of those things need to be taken into consideration, creating a strategy where you're using technology to maximize the benefits for all the stakeholders that they're involved. it's not easy, but it's a paradigm shift. It's a different way of thinking about things. And the tools are fluid because the tools are moving, they are changing. Some years ago, we were using QR codes. Now we're using RFID. Tomorrow we'll use something else. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you are able to access information, and what is the value, what is the benefit of using this technology. This is really what you really need to think towards achieving your objectives.
Okay. What you're proposing, what you've talked about today, may work in a city destination or an urban centre be more effective, but New Zealand fundamentally, in the terms of experience and product, is more rural. For example, we take our South Island, and how does what you say today change in a rural perspective in the terms of strategies and technology?
It really doesn't matter. Okay, smart tourism has primarily come out from smart cities, and it's really about managing urban environments with far too many people, but the methodology is exactly the same thing. So if you can think about a farm in a rural area that's specializing, I don't know, in horses, and is creating a storytelling about horses and creates a bubble of interest, anybody about horses, that they would like to go to that farm, I don't know, go riding or go looking after the horses. The whole thing should actually create value around horses. And then let's say that 20 kilometers down the road, there's another farm and another city and another village that is also doing horses. So you can do the horse route, going around, and perhaps, I don't know, you can even ride horses instead of having a car hire. The same thing with bikes, the same thing with everything. It's not about cities, it's about looking to resources and connecting the right resources to the right customers. I used to, some years ago, I used to ride and go into different places in Wales. And it happened 2 or 3 times that I arrived in a little cottage where I stayed the night, and the lady of the house said, "Look, I'll just cook this cake. Would you like to have some cake?" And I love their Wales cakes. Imagine that I was going around and a lady of the house was putting on, and I've said, "Look, I like Wales cakes." And the lady of the house has actually put on their social media, "I've just cooked this nice cake." I'll go and stay in that little place with the lady of the house who has cooked the cake rather than going to a big branded hotel that can be the same wherever in the world. So what I'm trying to explain is that it's really about connecting people, connecting resources, connecting all the different kind of aspects in real time and co-creating value for everybody.
Okay. How do you think COVID-19 changes how we use technology?
I think I said earlier, digitization of steroids. In many countries like Greece and Italy and Spain, where people were locked in for 3-4 months, they had to do everything on technology. A lot of university lecturers who have never, ever done a single online lecture, they had to become prolific in about 1 week. And there was not a question of I can do it or I cannot do it. Everybody had to do it, and everybody had to learn how to do it. And as you can see, we relied on digitization to actually connect and operate and function. And I think that almost told our customers and everybody else that we are in a place of no return. When we go to the new reality, the new reality will be almost blended. It will be offline and online. That's why I talked a little bit earlier about augmented reality and virtual reality, because And the fact of the matter is I've never been to New Zealand, but I'd love to go to New Zealand. But if I have 2 weeks to do New Zealand, where should I go? Can I do a virtual tour in advance and then kind of decide whether I should go to the North Island, the South Island, or what kind of thing? I know what's going to happen eventually. I'll call Ian and say, look, mate, I've got 2 weeks, what do I do? But in reality, what you like to have is, and we are going to go to blended realities, where some of the information will be in augmented reality, some will be virtual reality, and we'll have an expectation that all the local information, especially with COVID and especially in safety, I really want to know where is the nearest hospital and is the nearest hospital able and has got ability to deal with things. And I know that you're in a very fortunate situation in New Zealand, but in the UK, 6,000 people have died. So I really want to understand, you know, in Bournemouth, for example, where I'm based, I'm looking, where can I go and I can have social distancing? Because what I experienced today was horrific. I don't really want to go into that place again and endanger myself. So I really want to know in real time, where can I get information, where can I protect myself, and how can I have a responsible tourism experience without me endangering others and others endangering me.
So how have you got some examples of how technology is being used to help us manage, you know, capacities and visitors? So I'll give you an example. Pre-COVID-19, the key word in tourism was over-tourism. As we now rush back to those beaches and, for example, social distancing becomes an issue, how can we use technology to help us manage those capacities in the terms of distance?
As you know, Ian, there's no such a thing as over-tourism.
Okay.
Over-tourism is a media creation, which I hate. It's badly managed tourism, badly planned and badly managed. There are places where current capacity has been exceeded. And there are places where tourism has actually done bad for the local population in terms of impact. Because those who are decision makers made the wrong decisions and then control their situation. What the situation is that in destinations you can have, it's predictable. People do not happen, you know, they were telling me about Santorini, and they said, look, when 3 cruise liners are appearing at the same time, the situation is impossible. And I said, okay, but why 3 cruise liners appear at the same time? Who is giving them the permission to appear at the same time? Why don't you stage that? That's the problem. They were telling me, you know, I arrived in Orlando some time ago and it took me 2.5 hours to get out of the airport. And they told me, look, it's early in the morning. And they only had 2 security people, you know, police officers who were checking passports. And I said, look, 3 big airplanes arrived at the same time, bringing 1,000 passengers, right? It's not that the planes arrived from nowhere. This was planned months ago. The fact that you only have 2 people to manage 1,000 passengers, it's bad planning, it's bad management. It's not the fact that, look, there are so many people coming. It's the destinations and the tourism business and organizations that they do not take care of their business and they do not really manage tourism well. And this will become unacceptable in the future because people expect that we're going to do tourism in the right way. And also people expect that they will not go back and they'll say, they'll badmouth a destination that is not providing value for them and is not looking after them. And this is where technology is coming into supporting competitive advantage for destinations by saying, look, I went there and I had all the experience. I didn't have to go through passport and security controls because all my information was known. They did face recognition. I went through out of the airport in 5 minutes. Thank you very much. Goodbye. That was a good experience. So it's all kind of solutions that we have to add value to consumers as they're going through the different stages. But also not only to consumers, but also the local population. Going back to your rural areas, can you imagine how much money you can bring to those people that they need it most in a rural situation, in a rural context, by actually telling the world about the fantastic little cake that this lady was doing? And her name was Claire, and she was doing this cake, and she had a story, and blah blah blah. Connection, human touch, wonderful kind of things.
Just a question. Could you tell us a story with examples of, say, for example, how a visitor attraction, and I'll use the example of Walt Disney because it's about big numbers and it's in a closed space, of how they could use this technology in a post-COVID-19 world?
Disney is probably the smartest destination in the world because it's totally controllable. They control everything. They control how many people are going through. So in Disneyland Paris, they take 45,000 people. They know that after 35,000 people, they reach their current capacity. And what they do is they kind of warn people, and when they reach 45,000, they close the doors. They say, we cannot take any more. They know what is the queuing, the queues that they've got in each attraction. So if in some attractions they've got more than half an hour, they do something. If they've got more than 1 hour, Mickey comes out and does some tricks. So signs a few autographs, does a few things. If it's more than 2 hours queuing, they're bringing out a little train and say to people, look, you don't really want to wait here for 2 hours because we know that you're going to have a bad experience. You wait for 2 hours to do a 2.5 minute attraction, right? So they go out there with a little van and they say, let me take you to another bit of the village that is less busy. Or they do priority things. So they sell extra priority passes to go faster. So once you understand the issue, what the customer wants and what your constraints, you tell people. You tell people, do not arrive here at 11 o'clock. Arrive here at 9 o'clock or arrive at 12 o'clock so you can have a better experience. And if you predict that on the 14th of August, you'll have so many people, then you extend the way that you don't close at 6 or 7 o'clock, you go up to 8 or 9 o'clock. So you increase the capacity because you control the destination. In some normal destinations, more difficult to do that, but there are also ways of doing it. Bhutan, for example, has got a very expensive visa, just to slow down the number of people who are going there. If I remember well, it's $5,000. Just to make sure that they're controlling who is going there, that those people who go there, they contribute to the place. So there are a lot of techniques to do depending on the destination, depending on the resources, and depending on the vulnerability of the resources. Because this is what we're trying to do also, sustainability of vulnerable resources.
Just one final question to close. Considering a post-COVID-19 world, which technologies do you think will accelerate and become more prominent, and which ones do you think will disappear?
I think all technologies are moving fast, and all of the technologies are engaging. And I don't really look into technology. I really look into the value that the technology creates. So what's going to happen is that if a particular, I don't know, Bluetooth or some of you may remember WAP that was on the mobile phones, the first internet on mobile phones. It was horrible technology. It disappeared, but quickly the next level up came forward. So it doesn't matter really which technology is going to take smartness forward, because it's all these ambient technologies and all this ambient intelligence that are coming together, complementing each other and developing value for the future. But if I had to choose one, I think artificial intelligence, where the machines decide for themselves and the machines decide for themselves based on machine learning and what they learn from your experience and your behavior in the last place, and engage in mathematical formulas and mathematical calculations to predict what you need. So before you start looking, so when you book your flight, Ian, instead of you looking for the best photographer, immediately the system brings 3 photographers to you and say, look, Ian, I know that you are normally looking for photography guides. Here are the 3 best people with the best reviews in this particular area. And I know that you would like to take pictures with slow speed and stuff like that. This particular person had 5 reviews that they are mentioning that. So we are matching your needs, your requirements with the skills of this particular individual proactively before actually you do it. Because for the time being, you need to think about it, look around and find out. Increasingly what's going to happen is that the information will find you. You'll not be looking for the information. Again, you need to unmute yourself here.
Dimitrios, thank you very much. That was a well-informed presentation, really thick discussion, and both very strong on research, but also some practical advice in terms of questions for destinations. Just before we go, I'd like to remind participants of our forthcoming seminars. The next one will be on the 9th of July, where we are going to look at destination recovery strategies, basically what destinations have done, lessons learned, and what next. And we have 3 leaders. We have Stephen England Hall from Tourism New Zealand, we have Riddle Braham from Visit Scotland, and we have Donna Kieran from the New York company. So 3 different destinations at 3 different stages within the crisis of COVID-19, and that's on the 9th of July. Then on the 22nd of July, we're looking at pricing and forecasting in a post-COVID-19 world with Sherry Kimes from Cornell University and Ben Vinard from Sabre Technologies. So thank you very much. And it's just to remind people to have a good day. This recording will be posted onto YouTube in the next couple of days, and we'll inform you of that changes. So thank you very much. And to Dimitrios, it's thank you and good night. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ian. Stay safe.
Thank you.